Hey guys, welcome to Mr. Smith's Kitchen. Brian, Mr. Smith Kitchen. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Glad to have you. I'm glad you found me. Thank you for taking time to check out my channel and our neighborhood. And if you're returning, thank you. Thank you very much. It means you're getting something out of this. And I'm keeping you slightly entertained or interested at any rate. Don't forget, subscribe. Thumbs up, thumbs down. They're great. Not absolutely necessary, but it's always nice to see. It gives me an idea of, if I'm doing stuff right. Comments are always welcomed. All I ask is you keep them respectful. Don't have to agree with me, so to speak, but keep them respectful. Think before you type. And, we are a community of just different ages, backgrounds. We're a good community, and we try to be good neighbors. So good neighbors don't always agree, but they are respectful when they disagree. So that being said, it's Wednesday morning. You will see a video tonight for dinner. We're actually going to do a hamburger and cheese slow cooker recipe. It's going to be really good, I think. Found a couple different recipes on the web. Kind of combined them together, and we're going to make it. So, I guess technically speaking, you could say it's something I've created, but not necessarily. So anyhow, I didn't do a video yesterday. Things were just getting, it was busy. Tuesdays is a work day. By the time I got home, got settled, and in case you didn't know, our youngest, Abby, she was actually in the hospital overnight a couple nights ago, and she's still kind of recouping from that. She had an allergic reaction to her amoxicillin, which is an antibiotic, if you don't know what amoxicillin is, and found out she can't use it anymore. But it was an interesting couple days. Not a lot of sleep, but we've been kind of tending to her, so there wasn't a whole lot of time to put in a video. Although, I've got plenty to talk about. We could start with, and I don't know if it's like this all over the U.S., but I know at least in Ohio, city schools. Right now, it's bitter cold outside today. It's only like 2 degrees outside this morning. And there's a lot of schools school systems that are closing because of the cold. And I know in Columbus's case, a lot of their schools, the heat's not functioning. And I don't understand why we're not keeping up with maintenance and repairing. You could say it's a money issue, and in some ways I'd buy that, but not really. Only because the U.S. government just gave the state and the cities, a lot of money that we haven't used for the pandemic way back forever ago. I know we're struggling in the school systems all the way around between people being sick, calling off, vaccination statuses, wearing masks. It seems like we are just fighting over everything, which needs to stop. In reality, it just needs to stop. The rules are put in place to protect people, to help people, but my biggest concern is the lack of heat in the schools. When I was younger, we went to school whether it was cold or hot out, and I think that's the way it should be, but we always had heat in the school. It was always up, it was always running, it was always maintained, and now all of a sudden we're not maintaining things, and I'm not sure why. So we need to get that fixed. I think part of our problem is we overpay way too much. So anyhow, I wanted to talk about that, even if it's just for a brief second. But there's a lot of things going on. Social issues. I think part of the school problem is a social issue, because it seems like most of the schools that are having these issues are in lower income neighborhoods, which I don't understand. If you're a complete school system and if you're the schools in the upper income, middle class, middle upper class neighborhoods seem to be doing okay. It's the lower income or lower class schools that aren't. And I don't understand how we have that imbalance when it's the same school system. You should do for one what you do for all. Maintenance schedule should be a maintenance schedule. I know in the business world, it doesn't matter how many buildings you own, you maintenance at the same time. You repair at the same time. If it's broke, I pick up the phone, I call and have it fixed. You need to do the same with these. There should be a maintenance program, and it shouldn't cost 3 times the amount of a normal maintenance program. So, that being said, one thing I did want to show you was I didn't give up on the banana cream pie. Well, I haven't made an actual banana cream pie yet because I don't have any bananas. I haven't been to the store. But what I did was tweaked the recipe for the custard, and I tweaked the recipe for the vanilla wafer pie crust. So I'm still kind of working on the pie crust. It's still a little dry, I think, but I wanted to show you what the end result was. So I made this last night. I mean, here it is. And look, it didn't run at all. And the crust is actually not nearly, because that crust, it was good, but it was a little tough. So let me talk about the crust for a second. What I did, which I think I put it in the video for it, was I went from 1/3 of a cup of butter, oh, that's really good, to 1/2 cup of butter in the crust. What that did was, because the vanilla wafers I used on that first pie were older. They were a little stale. And I think by only using 1/3 of a cup, on top of them being older and not soft, they were really dry, didn't allow enough of the butter to be there to hold. Right? So it soaked up the butter, and it was solely relying on that sugar, which you want it soaking up the butter so it becomes softer. So what I did with this crust was I used a different vanilla wafer. Now, I don't know if brand made the difference or not, but I used one that wasn't an older vanilla wafer. It wasn't, it was, we had just bought it from the store, so it was, relatively new. And I added 1/2 cup of butter instead of 1/3 of a cup of butter, and that has given me a decent crust. Now, the fail on this, it was the first piece to come out, but right there is our piece. There's no bananas in this. It's just the vanilla custard, which tastes really good. But the crust is a lot moister. I think it fell apart back here because it was the first piece, and maybe I didn't get the butter quite mixed in right, but that's all right. It's a work in progress. As far as the custard goes, I couldn't decide when I made the video if it was lack of temperature or something else that I did wrong, right? Well, I did some research on custard pies, because I other than a key lime pie and a coconut cream pie, I mean, I've made a handful of cream pies, but not many, and definitely not one that with a recipe like this. That is so soft and creamy. It's like breakfast. But so what I did was I did some reading and found out that most custards you want to bring up to 180 to 185 degrees. You don't want to take them hotter than that, because then you'll start to burn the custard, which can happen. I had a few flakes of, a light brown burnt custard, and that one, it went up to about 192. So what I did was I took my mix minus my eggs, that initial mix, I brought it up to 185, 187-ish, and then I tempered my eggs with that, put it back on the heat. I took it off the heat while I tempered the eggs so it didn't burn sitting there. I tempered the eggs by putting a little mix into the eggs, then I put my eggs into the custard filling. Where it had set off the stove, I put it back on the stove, or on the burner, heated it back up to 185, kept it consistent, even if it meant taking it off the burner for a second to let it get back down if it started to jump up much past 188. And I whisked it until it got nice and thick, and it started to bubble. Now, when it bubbles, it looks like a lava pit. It'll just poof, 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 poof. And that's pretty much how you know you're there. So you want to be sure your temperature is right around 185. I used a candy thermometer. And you want to just continually whisk. You have to continually whisk and keep it up off the bottom, or it will burn. And that thickened up to a really nice pudding consistency. I mean, a true pudding consistency. And then I just followed the normal steps. I put it in the fridge for about an hour, let it cool down to room temperature, and then I put it in the pie pan. Now, with this particular one, since I didn't put bananas in it, I didn't have to put it in the fridge and let it cool down to room temperature. I could have just put it in the pie crust, stuck it in the fridge overnight, and let it go. But I did that because that's what the directions called for with the recipe for the banana cream pie. So I wanted to make sure I had it right. And I showed you, I didn't have to show you in the last video that I failed. I could have redone it all. But there was a reason for that. This worked. I figured it out. But, and I've heard this said several times, you only fail when you quit trying. And that was kind of the reason why we did that. I mean, I didn't mean to make the pie not harden. That wasn't my intention. My intention was to make a great pie the first time. But what came of that? Well, because we failed with it and it didn't set properly and the crust was a little crunchy, it gave us the opportunity to not give up, to not fail. And that's just as important as anything else. Because, like I said, I've heard it said many times, it's more of a motivational quote, but you only fail when you quit trying, right? So I didn't quit trying. I even told Chris, my wife, if you're new, when I got done posting the video, pretty much all I talked about the rest of the evening before we went to bed was how I need to remake that. I need to figure out what went wrong. That way I knew that the next go around, i.e. the next go around, it would be a good hard custard. It would be solid, but not too firm. That it would be creamy. I mean, the last one was creamy, but it was liquidy. And that the crust would be better. So I went with the most logical thought. Okay, so it could have been that we didn't cool it long enough. But I found out by the next morning, because it sat in the fridge overnight, that it still wasn't set properly. It had gotten firmer, but it hadn't set properly. So that told me it was probably a temperature issue. So I got online and I looked, at what should the temperature of your custard be when cooking it. And I found out that 180 to 185 is the optimal temperature to have it cooking at while stirring to thicken, which tells me that I didn't have it quite there. Now, that's my fault. I mean, I didn't research that into it, and I could have. I didn't know. But it's still, I screwed it up. But it was a happy failure, right? We still ate every last bit of it. We just had it in a bowl instead of on a plate. But once I learned that, I just simply took my candy thermometer and hooked it onto the side of my pan when I made this one and said, okay, let's try, keeping it 180, 185, make sure we got it hot enough. I don't think I got mine hot enough. And in the baking world, a few degrees can make all the difference in the world. So I ensured it was hot enough. Other than that, I didn't change a single process. I didn't change a single step. I used the exact same amount of ingredients. I used, I did the same processes, cooked it, cooled it in the fridge, put it into the pie crust, and with just that change, taking it up in temperature, it worked. So now we know, right? I didn't fail. It took me a little longer to succeed, but I didn't fail. And that's really what I wanted to show you with this, because I could have just moved on from my failure and been like, nobody's going to pay attention. But even if nobody's looking, I knew, right? Don't you think like that? That, you could take a shortcut even when nobody's looking, but you'll know. That to me is the difference between a good quality solution and success than failing and moving on. Anything worth doing is worth doing right. It's like if I make a woodworking project or I build something, for the house, I make sure I do it right, because even if nobody else notices, nobody else sees it, it's behind the wall or whatever, I'll know. And that makes all the difference in the world. That's my name on the line. This is my name on the line. This is my channel on the line, so to speak. And like I said, even if only 6 people watch this and the rest of the world never finds out I screwed something up and didn't go after making it right, I'll know. And that to me is the world. So anyhow, this wasn't going to be a long video, and it's not. And we're going to run about 20 minutes. But I wanted to show you the pie. I wanted to talk about schools. I wanted to let you know that, it's okay to get it wrong. Just don't give up until you get it right, and then you'll never fail. I think that's a key. I really do. So tonight we're going to do the beef and cheese slow cooker recipe, which I think you guys will love. Chris found this original recipe, and we turned it and made it our own. Tomorrow we're going to do a cinnamon toast crunch cheesecake, which I think is just going to knock our socks off. And we'll see. We'll see at any rate. I'm going to take it to work for everybody to try at work. We'll each have a slice here, but my friend Kevin at work had asked if he showed me a picture of it, and I was like, well, send me that picture so I don't forget. And he goes, well, there's no ingredients list or directions or anything for the recipe. And I said, it's okay. I said, we'll figure it out. Well, I found a recipe I like, and we're going to try it. So I will see you tonight for dinner. I think it's going to be good. It is going to be another slow cooker recipe, but I got things to get done today, and I don't have time to spend hours standing over, an hour and a half or so over a stove in the kitchen. So I got fish tanks to take care of and things like that. I'm reworking my schedule, home schedule, to be more efficient, if that makes any sense. So anyhow, I love you. I love you very much. I mean that, and I do mean that from the bottom of my heart. Tell somebody else you love them and love them very much. Make them that banana cream pie and use the tweaks that I just told you, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, that is the most amazing pie ever. Thank you. And you've made a new friend. Share some pie and coffee with. So till tonight for dinner, be safe. Have a good day. If you're in Ohio, stay warm. It's really cold. All right? I love you. See you tonight. Bye.